People, we're back in Portsmouth, and this week we've got Karl Bailey of the Pompey Darkroom.
Pompey Darkroom came around because I was spending a lot of my time travelling to Bristol and London to access photography events, talks, and I was kind of frustrated that I have to do these things just to access. So it was about creating something in Portsmouth. I have never set up a community interest company before. I certainly have never set up a darkroom before. But then suddenly I'm doing all of these things because there was this kind of energy for it. And it's all analog. We take away the screens and we're looking with our eyes, and with the camera we are physically pouring in those chemicals. When we make that print, we are just using light and light sensitive paper and chemicals to make something. And I think it's really special, and it's really exciting to be that person that's kind of leading that, I suppose.
Karl, welcome to the What's Going On show, mate.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking quite forward to this one. I've never actually met you in person like this, I don't think. I've seen you at events here and there, but yeah, it's good to finally meet you.
Nice.
And cool, so welcome to What's Going On show, the show where we shine a light on people doing things in communities, and you yourself are running the Pompey Darkroom. And we're going to go back a bit into that today, but first of all, before I start, I've got a little tradition, is instead of me giving you an introduction, I kind of have, but not really, I'd like to give it straight over to you. So who is Karl Bailey?
Okay, well, that's a really deep question, isn't it? I don't know. I describe myself. So for me, I'm primarily at first, I'm an artist and a photographer, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. I've always been interested in being proactive in different kind of creative formats and different scenes, and I did music a long time ago and ran a record label and stuff. And then sort of just always been interested in photography, and it's kind of just came to my practice maybe what are we talking, 7 years ago. Sort of realized that photography could be a little bit more, something new, something different. It could tell a story. It can kind of be critical. It's similar to kind of like an arts kind of way of approaching of photography. Kind of trying to remove a little bit of the hobbyist level to it, which is fine if that's what people are into. And yeah, so kind of Pompey Darkroom came around because I was really interested in. I was spending a lot of my time travelling to Bristol and London to access photography events, talks, lots of artist talks and things like that. And I would work all day Thursday. I would drive to Bristol, spend an hour listening to a Japanese photographer that they'd managed to get into Bristol, and then drive home. And it was a long day, and I was kind of frustrated that I have to do these things just to access. And during COVID, it was really great because they had lots of hybrid events, so you could access these things from home. And then as that sort of drifted away, people went, we're not going to bother with that tech element anymore, which is fine. But it meant that ultimately you had to spend a lot of investment and time and money into kind of accessing these spaces. So it was about creating something that it was taking a piece of those events and those conversations in Bristol and London and bringing it into Portsmouth, and that was kind of the primary goal for Pompey Darkroom.
Interesting. A lot to unpick there.
Yes, sorry.
No, it's all right. So, okay, cool. So that's the origin story of Pompey Darkroom. Mm-hmm. But you said that, I don't know why that came out to me, but you said that you actually ran a music label, or what was that?
Yeah, so when I was a lot younger, we were kind of involved in the it was punk hardcore music scene in Portsmouth. It was quite prevalent at the time, or at least it was in for us, and kind of all of our kind of all of our upbringing was associated to music and those genres of music. So like, like I saw Enter Shikari at the Pyramids when I was 16. Like they're huge now and like doing things majorly in the mainstream music scene now. And so like would go to gigs in Southampton like lots of nights of the week, and so was playing music myself. And then there was this real movement around just being a part of this scene, this very DIY essence scene. And with one of my friends, we created a record label that basically just like put out music in physical format that we really liked. So it could range from like math rock kind of things, and we would release like CDs or cassette tapes. And then into like heavier music, like metal and hardcore and punk, and we did some vinyl and stuff like that. And it was kind of like the catalyst for realizing that you could do all of these things yourself. And I think, like I went to college and I did media, so I had some kind of experience in design. I had some kind of like, I could work Photoshop a little bit. And so like what the record label did was it meant that I was able to start just creating lots of things. And sorry, that doesn't really make sense, but like ultimately what the label was an outlet for me to create with my friend as well. So not only would we pick the artists locally, but we also released like American artists sometimes. We'd pick the artist locally. And not only did we pick the music because we liked it, but it was like, how are we going to do the cover? How are we going to design the tape? Like, what's the sticker on the tape? So everything was done in-house. So I just did all the design myself. I did all the printing. We did all the assembly. So like, if we did like a 50 cassette tape, and I did all the tape dubbing as well. So I had a tape machine that only dubbed in real time. So if there's like if it's a 20-minute EP, and I make 50 of them, I'm spending that much time, 20 times 50, just dubbing the tape alone. And at the same time doing the design and the printing and the cutting out and the assembly. So like there was so it was great because it was just like this big movement, and like we would go to shows and we would put on shows locally. And, like one of the bands that we released are like doing really well. Like they're a post-metal band called Acres, and they toured America recently, and I think they played at the Takedown Festival locally like last year, maybe the year before. So like it was just kind of like the catalyst for being a part of a scene and like contributing and having like this really like important it was a really important moment to realizing that you could do things and just do them.
Interesting. So you start this music label with your mate. What was it called?
It was called, and you can go on the Bandcamp and listen to all the releases still. It's called Animal Defense Records. It's not because we were like militant vegans. It was because we were interested in kung fu and animals. So we just kind of like our visual graphics were like blending those together. So our logo, funnily enough, our logo was a raccoon with like a samurai sword. And we did like stickers with other animals and stuff. It was all just a bit of fun. But funny enough, now the Pompey Darkroom logo is a raccoon as well. So I've kind of like continued it on, which is quite nice.
Nice. So, okay, interesting. So something in the intro I also picked up on there was you said about 7 years ago you started taking it more seriously, like the photography side. What ignited that change?
I think it was maturity as much as anything else. So I was really into photography as a hobby, I would say, like from 15 years old, and would go out into the fields at 5 o'clock in the morning, photograph deer running around. Really, really loved that style of photography. Didn't really know anything other than that. So like a lot of, like a nice beach at sunset, those kind of images. I started doing weddings when I was sort of like 20, 21. it kind of killed the love for me for photography, which is great because so like like you can use your skill and you can kind of earn money from it, which is really 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 good. And in the world at the moment, there's this big thing around like commodifying everything we do, and kind of being an entrepreneur, and and so that's what I wanted at like 15 years ago, and it just killed photography for me, and I dropped it, and I put it down for like 7 or 8 years, but there was always something missing. It sounds really cheesy, but there was always something missing, and I was always looking for what that thing was. And then it just so happened that one of my friends gave me a camera, and it just kind of went from there. And it was a film camera that he gave me, so like the film element was like a big contributing factor towards photographing. I think it was quite new. There's something really nice about the process. It feels very real and tangible. You can, but you can't like necessarily replicate the process or the results digitally. I think you probably can, but yeah. So it was just that moment that made me suddenly realize that like, oh, this is what's been missing, and sort of like clicked back with me again. And it's kind of been a part of that. It's been a part of my life ever since. And I went and did a BA at Portsmouth in photography like 2020. And it kind of just solidified what I wanted to do, and like started looking at photography in a much more critical way, and thinking about photography and like all of the things that come into that. Yeah, and so now so now I would not now I would reluctantly describe myself as an artist or a photographer or whatever you want to call me, but I am a funded and paid artist, and have been involved in commissions, and so I guess that is technically like a profession. Yeah.
How do you feel about then? So you said about commodifying your passion in a way, commodifying everything that we do. What are your views on people doing that?
I don't know if there's a negative to it. Maybe because it is very popular, it sort of sets an unrealistic expectation on the ability to be successful in that regard. And that's not to diminish anyone who's doing it, but obviously like it's really competitive, like, and we're at Christmas time now, and you go to all of these fairs, and like not everyone's doing it, but there's a huge amount of people that are doing it. So, and you see it in colleges a lot, like there's this big entrepreneurial element to college, and like creating things and putting things on mugs and tote bags and stuff like that. Maybe there's something to be said about the environmental impact of the amount of things that we're putting on, mugs made from China and tote bags. I don't know. But yeah, so I at the end of the day, it's fine. Like people just do whatever they want, I think. But yeah, maybe some sort of unexpected, like maybe some sort of unrealistic expectation on success and perhaps what that means. But maybe that's not what people do it for. Maybe they do it for like the community and creative outlet and making and stuff. I don't know.
I don't know about you. I mean, when you, because now you say you're coming back to the thing. You say you're a commissioned artist, but you say you're reluctant to say that you're an artist photographer because you are all these things, a creative entrepreneur. Now, when was the point where you said, or has there even become a point when you said, I'm a professional?
Yeah. I think like juggle with it a lot, and I think you'll also, for me, I also get days where I'm like, this is just like silly, why am I doing this? But I guess just like the consistency of work, be that like a more commercial job or a commission, has been there since I've, probably like for the last 4 years for me. So very late to the game in a way, but like, so I think that it's been there for like the last 4 years, and that kind of builds and builds each year. So I guess there's like that professional element within that, and like the definition of a professional is somebody who gets paid to do a job, right? Like the work that they do. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I only asked that because I don't know. Because I never went to media school. I never went to anything like that. I think the transition from becoming, a novice or a beginner, whatever you want to call it, to then being like, oh, you know what, I do this. It was, I don't know. I don't know where that fine line was. I don't know when that line was. I just started saying, yeah, I do this. And then, but yeah, I'm just fascinated to hear what you have to say about it. So moving on. So, cool. So, Pompey Darkroom. Mm-hmm. You obviously started, you said the origin story in the beginning. You wanted to bring the scene to Portsmouth. And then you did a BA in photography in 2020. How was it starting Pompey Darkroom then? How was it bringing it to Portsmouth?
Basically, I set it up voluntary, and I ran it voluntary for 2 years. And I never laid out an expectation on what I want to achieve, but I just said, like, I want to do this. It was very, very relaxed. So, like, I would say, like, okay, in February, I want to do a photography talk. I want to bring 3 Portsmouth artists together to do that talk. Where can we do it? That is good. And kind of where can we do it that is free, can kind of support through its infrastructure, and where it kind of complements the work that's being done. And so like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, it felt, and it's hard to say whether that was the case, because I'm much deeper now than I was, but it felt that there was not a lot of collaborative working going on within organisations and within arts organisations in the city. And for me, like coming from that music background where like collaboration and being part of a scene and showing up within that space was like a really important part, like probably like an ethos. It felt that Portsmouth didn't have that in its art scene, and I think it does now, and maybe it always has. But at that time, it was like, how can we collaborate to make the events bigger, and benefit more people, and ultimately, like it obviously makes my life a lot easier if I'm not having to pay for a venue and then hire or borrow a projector or a PA or all of those things. So so I would just so I would like come, so like we did a photography talk, and it was at Aspects, and they just said you can have the space as part of this program, we'll help you market it, and that's what happened, and it was really successful, and it kind of demonstrated to me on that day that there is kind of an aptitude for this kind of thing, these kind of things that were happening in Bristol and London, and these kind of conversations, and there was an aptitude in it for Portsmouth. And so over those 2 years, I essentially just did events that I felt would be fun and interesting for me, as well as engaging for the community and something different perhaps. And they were just kind of like, I would just pick them up and say like, this is what we're doing next month, and just do it. And then like 2 years on from just doing it, we basically received funding in summer for an Arts Council grant. So it's gone from and I'd never set that expectation. Like, I had maybe in the back of my mind, I went like, it would be nice to have that, but I never set that expectation. I was just focused on the doing, and from the doing, it's kind of worked out to become something much bigger, which is really nice because it was never it was never in my, I don't know how to run an arts organization. I have never set up a community interest company before. I certainly have never set up a darkroom before. I've used a darkroom, but then suddenly I'm doing all of these things because there was this kind of energy for it.
Interesting. So you kind of just went with it until it is what it is now, and that's special. That is good because I love that. So, big question: what is a darkroom?
Okay. So yeah, that's really great because like some younger audiences won't know, will they? Probably, or they've only seen it in like Stranger Things. Yeah, so a darkroom is a place where you would traditionally have you would have developed your film, and you would create photography prints with that developed film. Yeah, that's kind of, they were everywhere, like, and there's some still exist in schools and colleges and universities, but not around here, kind of for public use.
Not for public use, but is this one for public use?
Yes. Yeah, but like everyone's going to go like, no, it's not right now, because it depends when you put this out. But it's about finding a model. This is for public use. It's interestingly, its primary use is an educational tool for young people. So I'm really interested in how can we engage young people in Portsmouth in photography, and it's not necessarily about the technical skills or that element. It's about like what can we say with photography, like what can we contribute towards as like a conversation or an idea, and that doesn't have to be about photography. It can be about community or identity, and so that the idea for the darkroom is to create access for people who wouldn't have the opportunity to have this access. And we know, especially in this area, in Commercial Road, in the Charles Dickens ward in particular, we know that the need for access and the opportunity to engage in something that's creative is really important for young people, because young people aspire to be what they see, and if young people don't see or engage with somebody who might be a professional photographer, or somebody who might be a painter, or maybe even somebody who might be like a musician, if children don't have the opportunity to access and experience these things, then they aspire to be, they don't see the full potential in what they can do and what they can be. So the darkroom its primary focus is to do that work, and the darkroom is a unique opportunity to do something that you don't have access to anymore. It's all analog. And what's great about that is that we don't need screens to do anything. And so we take away the screens, and we're looking with our eyes and with the camera. And then when we're making those images, we are physically pouring in those chemicals. We are seeing it appear through the process. When we make that print, we are just using light and light sensitive paper and chemicals to make something. And I think it's really special and a really unique opportunity. And it's really exciting to be that person that's kind of leading that, I suppose.
Taking them away from the screen, ensuring they, I don't don't know, not only build motor skills, but actually have hands-on, like get hands-on with something. I don't know. I feel like you could. I don't know. Do you feel like kids are too stuck on the screen? That was a really badly put sentence. But do you feel like kids spend too much time on screens?
Um, I can't say what I personally think, because I don't have kids. I work with some kids in schools. I don't see them enough to understand if that's the case, but we know that there is an alarming statistics around mental health and increased screen time, and and so that is suggesting that there is that is something that we need to be mindful of as we move into a world that is just increasingly going to be more and more digital and exist in a space like consistently. It's going to happen. I think potentially, with like, I'm just thinking like glasses, like the amount of them that has suddenly started appearing. How long until they can transfer what's in the phone into the glasses, so that we're no longer looking at the phone, we're just looking through the glasses and into the glasses screen to like deliver us content and data. And I think it's dangerous, because you sort of exist in this world that isn't real, and there's a lot to be said about slowing down in this world and being mindful and actually seeing things and experiencing them and feeling them and hearing and smelling. And I think photography is a really good tool for that mindfulness.
I agree on that. Yeah, because with the rise of screen time, with the rise of social media, with the rise of the internet, and and how easily it is to access, it seems that people can easily become an expert in something, because you wouldn't have to go to a library, you wouldn't have to get into a bit of research, you wouldn't have to find it out and actually seek it. You can just quickly get instant gratification, or instant knowledge, if you will. And yeah, I understand that, taking that step back, feeling, smelling, hearing is important. But how do we ensure, or how can we, not ensure, but how can we, with things like this, but if the rise of social media is still increasing, and phone use is still increasing, what else can we do to prevent kids from, because it's just so easily accessible, how can we get them out of that other ways?
It's really difficult, isn't it? I think there's a lot to be said about creating. There's a lot to be said about showing that, like, engaging in real world experiences and creativity doesn't matter if it's just whatever it is. It doesn't matter. I think there's a lot to be said about demonstrating the value in those things, and I think that's not just demonstrating to those kids, it's demonstrating to other adults and parents that, like, ultimately we need to be seen to be valuing these we need to be seen to be valuing art, I suppose, is what, well, for me it's about being able to be valuing art and creativity, and like intentionally slowing down and putting the phone away, I suppose. And I think there's a lot to be said about how we access art and the kind of stereotypes around art and its kind of like highbrow culture. So I think there's a lot to be said about I think there's a lot of work to do to break down the barriers that actually art and culture is for everyone, and that culture isn't, and art and culture isn't just, it doesn't just exist in a white gallery wall space. It doesn't just exist as ballet, but actually it's everywhere, and it, like football is culture, right? So it's about breaking down that there is art and culture everywhere, and everyone can access it, and everyone should be able to access it. And I think maybe that demonstrates value to lots of other people, and hopefully that will have an impact on like younger people to kind of realize that, you know, going out and doing this and not needing to be stuck to my phone is actually like better for me and more enjoyable.
I hear where you're coming from. I do. And I remember you said just previously there where you mentioned about kids in the Charles Dickens ward not really having the opportunities. And I'm fully aware of that as well. Yeah. And, you know, this is no shade on the parents or anyone for that matter, or guardians or whatever, but if opportunities aren't available in wards like Charles Dickens and deprivation is high and literacy rates are low, they have to work long hours, they come home, you know, this is no shade on the kids either, but the last thing you want to do is hear a whiny little kid yap here, there and everywhere in a small, sometimes one-bedroom flat. And the easiest thing is just to give them a phone and say, here you go. We've been seeing, I don't want to get political, but we've been seeing cutbacks. We've been seeing funds go to places where you like, do you really need funds here and there? Mm-hmm. But with the rise of these places, with the rise of youth clubs, if there is a cut in funding, how, you know, it's a problem at the top, is it not? Or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, ultimately it's just like a systematic problem, isn't it? Because there was something interesting that you said about that perhaps that working class parent who does have to work, you know, all hours of the day, and so the idea of engaging in this concept of art or culture probably seems very insignificant because, you know, like it's hard, like existence is hard. So it's an issue that is kind of not talked about enough. And I think like locally, I think we could all be doing more to be. I think it would be beneficial for us just to be a little bit more aware of the real world, and I think a lot of Portsmouth kind of it feels like a lot of what Portsmouth exists within this sort of southern bubble that is Southsea, and I live in Southsea as well, so like, you know, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, but I think like we're all guilty within our positions of not realizing the reality of what it is, and I think we Portsmouth is, and Southsea is very middle class. There is always pockets of deprivation within those spaces, but I think what I'm trying to say is if we just had a little bit more consciousness around the issues that are happening around us, maybe I don't know, like what I'm trying to say. I think it would all be good if we were just a little bit more conscious of what the real Portsmouth is. That's like quite a danger to say that, but I feel that actually, like, the real Portsmouth, you know, like a relatively, like, not an amazingly economic city, like, that exists in the second most wealthiest county in England. I've lost what I'm trying to say, sorry. Yeah, no, it's gone.
Totally fine. Because I kind of saw you, I guess. I understand where you was going with it. Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like Southsea is in that bubble of middle class, people who can afford to delve into the arts, into the music scene, into all that because they have that disposable cash, and yeah, just surviving is hard. And yeah, they're trying to build a stronger Portsmouth. They're trying to, bring Portsmouth together and have all these things in the city. But yeah, how do we spread the wealth among different places, or how do we spread the opportunities among different places? And they're trying that, and we're trying that with this. But yeah, I find it fascinating talking about it with you because you're behind the lens as well. So it's interesting because we just see a lot and we see it all unfold. But yeah, I find it fascinating.
Yeah.
Anyway, so cool. So bringing us back to the darkroom.
Yeah.
Then. So how long does an actual picture take to develop?
So you'll develop the roll of film all in one go. It's probably like a 10-minute process from taking it in the dark, taking it out of the canister, putting it in the reel, and then just pouring chemicals in. You do something called agitation, so you just sort of move it around the bottle, and you just like let it go for 8 minutes, and then you're pretty much done. So it's quite quick.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it took like a whole day.
No. So like if you were to make a print, I think that can take a whole day.
Okay.
Depending on how fussy you are about the print. So like a master printer would potentially take like a half day or a whole day perhaps to get the perfect looking print, which is the equivalent of sitting on Photoshop and ultimately like making that perfect enough to digitally print. It's the same process.
Okay. But can you actually butcher a photo?
Do you mean technically? Or...
Technically, or even just literally, can you actually do something with, say I'm pouring chemicals in and let's say I pour, I don't know, let's just say for example 10 mil instead of 5 mil. Is it gonna like...
Yeah, like if you get the process wrong or you don't put enough chemicals in or you mix it wrong or you don't agitate it for long enough or you don't stick to your times, or maybe if the chemistry is like too cold or too hot or you pour the wrong chemistry in, you're probably going to get it wrong. And it's like a learning curve that everyone has to kind of go through in order to get it right as well. Like those mistakes are probably always going to happen.
No, because I've never developed a photo using a darkroom.
Have you not?
In my life.
You should.
I'm so down. And yes, I'm always like fascinated by it because I've seen films, I've seen stuff like that where it's just like, darkroom and like don't open a door and all this.
You can't open the door, that's right.
You can't open the door. Why can't you open the door?
If you have the paper out,
yeah,
or your paper is in the process of being exposed to light, opening the door will mean that paper gets more exposed to light. So then you're gonna have like it's gonna be all over the place. So like it has to be in a controlled environment in order to do that. So everything's light sensitive, so that's why it's all in the dark.
Are they quite cheap to get a hold of, or?
You can get like point and click camera, point and click camera with a built-in flash. It doesn't have any bells or whistles, and you can put the film in. They're about £20. The film is a little bit more expensive, so, and this is like an interesting thing to think about because obviously like the environment and film is like made out of resources that are I don't know if they're becoming more scarce, but ultimately like more expensive to get. So like for 24 photographs in black and white, you might pay like £4 for the whole roll. If you are photographing in colour, and you photograph in a medium format, so like a larger format, you might end up paying like £2 a photograph. So like it scales up, and colour is more expensive. So like part of what we have funded for is that like there's no barriers to access for anyone, so everything's provided, all the materials, the cameras. We even provide access to transport if you can't get to us, and for the young people, like lunch as well. So trying to break down as many access barriers as possible to allow for that opportunity, I think is really important.
Interesting. £1 a photo. Gosh. Yeah, I remember being told when I was a kid that I wanted a camera, I wanted a film camera, and then I remember my parents going, "Yeah, it's too expensive," and I was like, "Okay."
It might not have been that expensive when you were a kid.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that's my question then. Is it only like open to young people? What are the ages it's open to?
So it is open to anyone. Primarily, we run our young person program, but we also will have we'll be running after the new year like an adult darkroom program, which will be designed to allow people to come in and basically learn from scratch. And then we'll have like a public usage program, which is a little bit more involved, because ultimately you need to be able to do everything yourself. So you need to be competent in the darkroom, so there'll be that element as well, where you can come in and use it, but ultimately like you have to be competent in that, and we have to go through what's the word? I've lost the word. An induction. Yeah. So we have to go through like an induction process for like health and safety, because the chemicals aren't like, there's like a risk factor. Not a risk factor, but you just have to be conscious of it.
Are they bad?
No.
Oh.
Well, you obviously don't drink them,
okay.
but yeah, so like, with anything that is chemical based, there's lots of protocols that you put in place to make sure that there isn't going to be any issues.
Okay, but they're not like, it'll burn my skin.
No, it can, like, I would never advocate for touching the chemicals, but some people do it, and it might make your like skin a bit rashy or a bit itchy, like certain chemicals, not our chemicals. But then what I would say is like those people probably shouldn't do that at all anyway. So so like everything is done by like tongs, and there's gloves and goggles and aprons, so it's all like PPE involved.
So you said not your chemicals.
No.
But what is the difference?
That's I basically, as far as I understand it, and I'm not the master of chemicals, because there's probably like 20, 30, 40 different types of chemicals that you can get in the market, and some have been running since, like some have been made in like the 1900s. Traditional photography chemicals are more harmful to the environment than like traditional lab-based chemicals can be more harmful to the environment, and some require like specialist disposal and stuff like that, because it contains like silver, but just basically like our chemicals from a guy called James, who runs Zone Imaging. He's really nice. Their chemicals are a lot less harmful. They have like strange scales of impact and harm that are on chemical data sheets that are like 20 pages long, that I've kind of read but don't remember them all that well. But yeah, so ultimately like, ours are a lot more friendlier to the environment and can be disposed of in a better way as well.
Fair. Interesting. Okay, so it's open now for young people and for adults. How many days a week is it open?
So that's like that's a tricky one because we're so small that basically like currently our funding doesn't cover somebody to be here in the building a day a week or 2 days a week. Like I'm ultimately one of two people, and I still work other jobs. And the other person is like an assistant coordinator, and they also work another job. We're kind of like opening it, like we're looking at diaries ahead of time and opening it in specific times. So like we'll have young people come in at the end of January, so we know that they're going to be there and using the space. The public darkroom model for access is still going to be figured out, but I'm envisioning a bookable system which basically says like we're open this day, this day, this day, this day next month, and you can book it and go from there.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's where we currently are with the darkroom.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see it becoming in the next year, 2026?
2026. To be honest, 2026 is, for me, it's just about the delivery of the project that we have. So we'll be carrying on with working with different young people from the area. We'll do adult darkroom sessions as well, and we'll hopefully have a public darkroom model. We also do artist talks, so we bring like national artists down into Portsmouth, which people can go to for free, usually at Aspects. We've done portfolio reviews in Portsmouth, so the opportunity for people who have like a photography project or work in mind and kind of want to exhibit it, or they want to make it into a book or a zine. So we have like portfolio reviews where we'll have national artists come down to Portsmouth, and kind of you have that opportunity to discuss with somebody who's like, you know, has been doing it as their job, as their practice for the last 20 years, and get advice from them, and it's really, really beneficial. So it will be more of that as we develop over 2026, and hopefully we'll be doing I really want to do like an educational program around photo books. Like photo books traditionally has been the output for photography as an art form for a long time. And so there is like a significant part of photography as an art practice that sort of sits within the importance of photography books. So the funding will run until the end of 2026, middle of 2027, and then who knows what will happen after that. More funding, hopefully, more projects.
Love that. Interesting. Well, Karl, we can put a pin in it there. It's been really interesting talking to you today. I've really enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie.
Nice to talk to you too.
Likewise. So cool. So I'll put a pin in it there. I look really forward to seeing what happens next, and hopefully we can come along and develop some photos.
Yeah. I'll give you a camera.
Yeah, that would be cool. Legend.
Yeah, absolutely.
And cool. I guess we'll put a pin in it there and crack on with part 2.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
Sounds good.
It's cool. Welcome to part 2. This is the part where we go out into the street and we ask a question. Okay. Obviously, you don't know what it is. We're about to find out right now. So feel free to watch it to the end. Feel free to stop it and speak your, have a word. But yeah, feel free.
Cool.
Do you think phone cameras will ever replace professional cameras?
I don't think so.
Really? What about yourself?
Well, I think they might. Because I was with a friend today who had a professional camera on a dog walk, and it's cumbersome and in the way, and cameras are quite good, aren't they? But
do you think phone cameras will eventually replace professional cameras?
Probably not. I mean, they're too small, I think.
Okay, interesting. What about yourself?
I was saying, nah, the cameras will get better, but then also the good cameras keep getting better as well.
Tell 'em. What about you?
I'm not too informed on the subject, but like those cameras are detailed. So.
Interesting. And where do you
You've got to say something.
No, you say it.
No, probably. Eventually, I reckon they will.
think phone cameras will ever replace professional cameras?
No, I don't. Probably not.
Interesting. Why though?
Because like when phone cameras get better, regular cameras will also get better. Yeah.
Love that.
I think because photography cameras they actually are made for taking pictures, but like phone cameras they're made for other things and not really focusing on taking pictures and stuff.
Think mobile phone cameras will ever replace professional cameras?
Probably. I think they're just too advanced now. Like, I have a 16 Pro Max, so it's got a decent little camera on it. So I think they will. I do think they will.
Ever replace professional cameras?
No, never.
Why?
I don't think mobile phones are ever going to be that big. Like, you need to have a proper camera to capture everything. They need to be big, and phones they'll never be made to be that big. The whole reason a mobile phone is like this is so small to be in a hand, and you can just do it. It's quick, easy access.
Thoughts? So.
And the question in that was professional cameras, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think obviously they've replaced what was essentially like the compact snapshot camera, right? You can still buy them, but I feel like maybe technologically speaking, like the compact camera was designed for that person to put in their pocket and take out on the family holiday, and now that is the phone. So yeah, although that's not your question. So the professional camera, I feel a bit uninformed by it, if I'm honest, but I feel like unless they can replicate what lenses are doing in like a literal way, so like obviously like I've noticed now phones are trying to replicate depth of field, and obviously it doesn't really work, doesn't it? I don't think it looks that great, and it's all digitally trying to replicate it. So unless they can essentially put all of the glass and technology from a lens into the size of a phone camera, I'm not sure it will ever be fully replaceable. I mean, people have made movies and ads on a phone, and you would probably never know the difference if you weren't told it. So maybe. What do you think?
Interesting, isn't
Yeah.
it? I don't know. I mean, here's one. So I was watching, I can't remember where it was the other day. I think I was just reading something or watching something. I can't remember. But I saw this new phone that's come out. And it's kind of like a prototype, but it's kind of like a look into the future. But it's literally just like an iPhone or a normal smartphone. And they've got this magnetic lens that it's like this attachment that just, sticks to the back of the camera. You can take it off whenever, but it sticks to the back of the camera, and it's a lens. It's an actual working lens. And, you open an app and you crack on like it's a camera. And I know it's like, baby steps, but is that a look into what it can be?
I potentially guess that. I think that lens, like a lens, there are lens attachments now, right? Even just we had them like 10 years ago, like the small ones, and they did maybe look a little bit better. Not sure if you have like this big lens attachment, whether that's still beneficial over actually using a real camera if you're like from a professional level. And you do get a lot more control from a real camera than you do a phone camera. And obviously, like, I find it frustrating because obviously phones handle the dynamic light, like indoors, sometimes a lot better. Like the mix of dynamic light a lot better than a camera does, unless you're like, obviously then you have to take that camera and that photo, and then like do a lot of work in post to get that photo up to scratch, whereas the phone does it instantly almost. So yeah, I think maybe in some elements, but hopefully, because we have such long standing history with the camera as the machine and the shape and the form, and there's value in that, and people continue to make it. Hopefully phones, it'd be nice that phones didn't become every single piece of technology that we ever need, wouldn't it? So like we actually have something physical that's separate from having a phone, which
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, but I don't know. I would love that to be the case, that they carry on making cameras, but then it just seems like it's slowly becoming that. Like I went to China back in 2019, just before COVID, and they use their phone for nearly everything. They pay on it. I mean, we do now. We pay on it. We do most of the things on the phone, but everything is done on this stuff.
I lived in China in 2019, and it was shocking how advanced the things that they did on their phone, like paid their gas bill on their phone, like everything, all on WeChat, pretty much. Yeah.
WeChat is just it's everything.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and and just like going off on a tangent, like obviously then you could get like food delivered by a man in WeChat, and that was like, wow, this is mad. And now we have that here, and it's just like, okay, this is the same. It's the same thing. Like, but yeah, that's really interesting.
Interesting. I mean, just on that then, the professional one. I mean, I only said professional in the street, so people. I don't know. I think we can open it up. We can say what about the rest of the cameras? But you said with the point and shoots, with the ones that just whatever. But they are still on the market, which is quite fascinating.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There's like obviously a resurgence over, like that Y2K era. So I went to a gig recently, and there was like lots of younger people around me, and they all had like 2000s point and shoot digital cameras, which is amazing to see. And hopefully it's kind of like hopefully that's a rejection of what kind of we're leading into now. So it's like using old technologies and trying to appreciate older things, and like through like appreciating that, it feels more involved, it feels more real, and it's not on your phone, so it's not distraction. It's not, I feel like, I mean, there's a really interesting conversation around like what does the future of the family album hold in phones. So like traditionally, like both of us probably come from an era that well, certainly me, comes from an era where I do have lots of printed family photos. People that are being photographed now as a child, those photos probably won't exist, and so they'll only ever exist digitally, and they'll exist in like the albums that people maybe upload to social media, or like the feeds that people share, and that is almost similar to just having a family album, but in a different way. But it's quite interesting because obviously like we take more photos than ever now because of the ability to take an endless amount of photos. So I wonder like how many archives will be lost, how many family albums or family moments will be lost because of like the barriers around not backing up photos and not storing them correctly on phones, or not like transferring them over correctly, and I think that does happen, and it's almost like there's obviously like a technological barrier, maybe there's like a value barrier. So like because we're able to take so many photos and we do that so many times a day, the ones that we have we almost devalue because of our ability to take lots of photos, so that it almost like, oh, it doesn't matter to me if September 2024 is, I lose it. Like, whereas for me, I would feel quite gutted if I was to lose a month's worth of photos. But maybe because like October and August of 2024 is packed full of hundreds and hundreds of photos, it's almost like they all just blend into one, and so there's no value on that moment in time.
Interesting.
Maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never looked at it like that. So people are because they do just become photos. And then maybe on top of that, maybe that's where professional cameras still have merit. They still have a place, because then you would go, hopefully, maybe it'd be in a digital form, but you would go to a photo studio and get those family portraits, because it would be that hands-on, that experience, and instead of just a phone, but who knows? Fascinating. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't know what to say to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have seen. I have seen. There is like a resurgence in, the use of vinyl, the use of film, the use of older techniques, and I don't know. Maybe this is a thought, but because when smartphones and stuff came out in 2008, round about there. When did the iPhone come out? Around that time.
Yeah.
And the use of pictures and all the rest of it. Maybe because we were the early adopters. Maybe because we were the first ones to use it. It's like shiny new object. I like it. And now because they've literally been born with it, and now they're reaching the age of teenagers, and they're like, well, this is not. They want something new, and their big shiny object is not the smartphone. It's the vinyl, or it's the film photography. Who knows? But
yeah. I think, but I also think people are younger people now, especially teenagers, are much more aware of the negative impacts that being on your phone 24/7 have, and being glued to your phone in the way it makes them feel. And so I think, and I hope that is a thing that people are realizing, and then almost rejecting this idea of being on your phone through the idea that we actually need to engage with real tangible experiences. And so that is like people who have a dumb phone instead of an iPhone, right? Like I would love to have a dumb phone. Like, a dumb phone is just a phone that does a text message and a call and doesn't have anything. I would love that, and I always contemplate it, but I feel like it'd be too tricky to give up the real phone because of work, which is silly, because like that's a silly thing to say, and so we should just make ourselves happier by perhaps making our lives simpler. But yeah, so perhaps young people are rejecting this idea that we need to be attached to the phone, and so we'll engage in real experiences, and we'll listen to an MP3 player and or a Vine, or we'll listen to a record or a tape, or we'll go back to like the way that cameras used to be, where like you take a picture, and for film you might not see it for a week or a month or a year, and there's something quite special about that. And then I think that goes to like talking about the way that we have instant feedback. And so like the internet and the phone use offers us lots of instant gratifications, and so taking those photos perhaps taking lots of photos offers us that as well. But there's value in for a film camera, there's value in taking a photo and forgetting what photo that was and not being able to see it, and then coming back to it in a month's time and going like, oh, that's nice, and like it's an actual engaged experience, rather than taking it and going like, yeah, I'll remember that, and probably never looking at it again because it feels so valueless. Don't know. Yeah.
Who knows? It's one of them. I hope.
Yeah.
That's all we can do, isn't it? It's interesting times. Because you are seeing that kickback of younger people saying, enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's that if we stop now, the work could stop, and yeah, it's crazy how everything's changed in such a short amount of time, and who knows what the future will bring. Interesting. So, any other thoughts on the video, on the question?
To be honest, I thought what everyone was saying was like, most people were like saying it wasn't gonna my short-term memory is terrible, but most people were saying like it's probably not going to become replaceable. So maybe there's hope that like people value that as well. Yeah, I don't really have anything else that like to contribute to that.
Interesting. Well, Carl, that brings us to a lovely close on part 2. And again, it's been great talking with you today. It really has. And I look forward to seeing what happens next.
Thanks. It's been lovely to talk to you too.